Hello and welcome to our next interview. We've turned the tables for this one because it's our interviewer extraordinaire, Olly Mack, who
Oh,
is
hello
obviously
there.
a games designer and author himself. So deserves his chance to shine and share with you everything that he's been working on.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks again. I have been busy. You can see behind me my set. So this actually gets used quite a bit. And as well as doing the books and the games, I have live versions. So I'm actually doing a live version of this Halloween, Shadow of the Vampire. At an amazing place called Carew Castle. I'm allowed to use their main hall, sort of Norman Hall,
Wow,
and I'll be doing a story, a one-man show for that one. So using a little bit
that
of magic,
sounds
monsters,
incredible.
and mystery.
Because
It's going
if
to be fun.
anybody,
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody doesn't know, Ollie's series is the Storymaster's Tales, and you've had great success with that, haven't you? It started with the Weirding Woods some years ago now. And how many
Yeah.
different games or books have you published within that setting? Do you know?
I've got within that setting. I've got the main one, which is Wading Wood, Draco Deep Dungeon, and then Threatlord Town. Those are kind of the trilogy that I kind of had in mind when I first started doing Wading Woods. I thought, well, I want to have it as a little world, a little region, and I had a few expansions. I got deep into the woods and deep into the dungeons, and they were all kind of based on folklore, different aspects for each area. So Winning Woods very much your Fey lore. You got things like Baba Yaga and stone circles and owl lords and all those kind of things. And then Dracadeep Dungeon is Greek myths, Arthurian legends, and dragons, of course. And then Threatlord Town is more your kind of piratey town, but it has things like the Pied Piper and the plague doctors going around, and thieves dens, but it's all kind of 18th century kind of period, very loosely, very loosely. And of course, a lot of horror involved as well. I like to throw as much horror as I can. So Krampus actually turns up in the Threatlord town, dragging some screaming children away. And there's also various other intrigues as well. But
Uh,
as well as that, I've got Mysterious Islands. Again,
oh,
that's kind
yes.
of an offshoot. So you can leave Threatlord docks and then go into these mysterious islands at a bit of a piratey adventure. And then I've got another kind of one-off that you could link in called Towers, where four mysterious towers appear, and it's like a gold treasure raid. You go up and down, and those have got the kind of Beauty and the Beast, and it's got the ringing singing tree and
Oh, brilliant.
Aladdin, and all those kind of more fairy tale aspects thrown in. Again, given a very kind of dark twist. Um, so those are the main ones. I do, of course, have my horror ones as well, which are completely different to those ones.
Well, yeah, because was the first horror one, you did Tome of Terror Transylvania, didn't you? But you've also done Hotel
Yes,
Lovecraft.
I have. And again, totally different. Tomato, I've always had a huge fondness for horror, Hammer horror, and the classic movies. And part of the thing that I've been doing for the live shows is always having dramatic music. And I wanted to, and you kind of use gothic music and that kind of storyteller vibe where you all sat around the table and telling a ghost story, telling a fantasy horror story. So the music was integral to all my games. And this one has four main stories. It's got a vampire story, it's got a werewolf story, it's got a Sleepy Hollow story, and of course, Frankenstein's monster. And you go to the little village of Bran, and it's got various maps that you utilize here. So, unlike branching narrative game books, they originally used to use cards, but now use maps. So the maps take up less space, and you can take it in the car, and they move around the map anywhere adjacent to the number. You can fill in your own maps, and each one will refer to an area in the book, and then there's a QR code to play your music, and then they do have choices. But it means it can go anywhere. All our books are each time you play it will be a very different story, depending on what you're playing and what items you find, and there's no set path as such. There's narrative ideas I've interwoven, but I don't know how the players are going to reach that point,
Mm.
which is interesting. So it's kind of partly down to the players to kind of link things together and discover things. They might play the game 10 times and never discover like 3 or 4 major plot points. And then they go back and go, oh, goodness me, that person's related to that. And if we do that, that will happen. Or we can find this item that we've never found before. So there's always kind of thrills.
You can revisit locations, can't you, in the game? So if you're on a quest and you find the villain of the piece, but you're not strong enough to defeat them, you can go back and look for methods to defeat them. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, you can run away and then come back later on and try and defeat it. And the one thing I found is also cooperative, so you can have a solo player or you can have up to 5 players. And I've played it a lot with people, and it is fascinating how clever people can be. How not manipulative, but they can come up with ideas that I'd never thought of as the author, and for solutions that had to defeat something.
And you're saying it's cooperative as well. It's although we're talking about the horror aspect, it can be tailored for a family audience, can't it? It works very well with children.
Both ways. You can really horror it up and make things quite gruesome, or you can kind of tame it down for the family audience. However, I do find kids do like the most gruesome parts. I'll give you an example. There was a group I do online teaching, and they had some 10 and 11-year-olds playing, and they got to a point, actually funny enough, meeting a dog that was chained up, and previously one of the characters had their 2 fingers sliced off.
Oh, goodness.
So they said, oh, I'm going to hang on to those, I'm going to hang on to them. And even though the narrative was kind of saying, okay, do you want to run past it, do you want to try and trick it, do you want to try and talk to it, or do you want to try and run the other way, she said, oh, can I just feed it my fingers?
Oh.
and try and tame it? And I said, why not? Absolutely. So it kind of breaks the role-playing part and the game book, and kind of create something new from it. So this is why I love playing with people. It's good to play test these games again, and then I play them just as a course as well, and I teach online and do it every week, and every time we play there's something new comes out of it.
That's amazing. Because during lockdown they quite took off, didn't they? You had all sorts of people joining you for adventures, and you kind of every time you did a new adventure it seemed you up the ante and increased the special effects or the
I went
very, very clever.
I went to well, my background is also obviously theatre and also filmmaking and photography, so I had all the equipment, and during lockdown I was okay, well, let's film every area. So for Wedding Woods I actually created all the characters and dressed up and changed the scenery and actually did that, and then we started growing an online group where we went beyond there, so we weren't having the choices. I started writing stories around the players, and it became online live role playing. I won online LARP of the year twice, one for the fantasy one, another one for a horror. So I wrote a show about 4 years ago, which I actually brought as a Kickstarter as well, called The Maddening, Cthulhu Parlor, The Maddening. And that was kind of based on a historical area in the First World War, which was a load of tunnels where the soldiers would go down on their downtime and just kind of explore. But it used to be a whole village underneath this village. And there were, they discovered like hundreds of names written down, all the soldiers. So I had it that there was a god that was released because of all the death. It's kind of drawn to this. So the players had to try and find a lost soldier, and they went to seance parlors, and they went to a little cafe and they drank absinthe, and went to a hospital, a recovery hospital where people were deformed and blown up, and found ex-soldiers. Anyway, I can turn that into a live show, and then I turned it back into an online show, and that's the one that we kind of won the award for.
That sounds
Um,
amazing. Incredible. You
yeah,
mentioned
it was
Cthulhu Parlor because there's also Cthulhu Parlor Hotel Lovecraft, isn't there?
indeed, yes. And this kind of goes back to the game book aspect, but it plays in the same way as Wedding Wood and uh, Hotel Transylvania. Sorry, Toma Terra Transylvania. And this was kind of I always wanted to do a pure Cthulhu one, but I wanted to do it differently. So I took the stories of H.P. Lovecraft and turned them into a different room in part of a hotel.
All right.
So every door that you open in the hotel is a story, and then you have like a mini adventure, a mini choice to escape that room, or
Wow.
not become more insane, or not to have something horrendous happen to you. So it's a very dark. There's not a lot of humor in this one, and this was kind of my lockdown one. So it's quite a hard one to write when things are pretty terrible outside, and you're going into your own head and thinking, how awful can I make it? How worse can I make it for everyone?
Yeah.
And that was good fun. And we did it initially as actually that's my original drawing there at the back.
Oh,
Originally, I did it with the cards all printed at the back. You can still get this on Amazon, and you lay the cards out as you go down the different rooms, and it's all color this one. But I did a new version where I had the map was the cross section of the hotel, and then you just move the way down, and to escape is the idea of that one.
right. So
Um,
you mentioned you can get that on Amazon. So can people buy your books through your website as well, or is it all
yeah, I mean
under
you
events, of course?
can. Yeah, I mean you can buy them from the website, but you can also buy some of the cards as well. So I do have some cards left from all my Kickstarters because people did like the cards when they were in the original box set.
Hmm.
But they are all designed now not to use them. You don't have to have the cards. So these are
Right.
now used in schools and libraries. They even have the dice printed upon them as well,
Brilliant.
and the maps you can get printed out from my website for nothing as well. So that's kind of good. It's kind of coming with ideas where you can make it as easy as possible for people to kind of play your games, and publishing through Amazon does that. It means they don't have to wait too long. They can just order it, and it's with them in a couple of days. If they order from me, it's going to be a little while. I'm afraid you got to wait. And I
Right.
do occasionally sell signed ones as well. Um,
But the fact you have Transylvania as a tome of terror, do you have plans for future tomes of terror?
yes, I do have another one, which we're currently still working on. It's kind of had a little break, but I will get back to it because all the artwork is done for it, which is Toma Terror London. And we've got, I say loosely London because we do actually have the Phantom of the Opera turn up
Right.
as well.
It could be on tour.
And I've got, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've got Jekyll and Hyde. You've got a master detective. Obviously not Sherlock Holmes. That's still copyrighted. And and a few other things. So I'm looking forward to bring that one out as well. It's going to be the similar kind of tone to this one, where there won't be loads of stories. We tend to have about 4 tales in this one that are all interwoven, and the Wedding Wood and Draco Deep Dungeon, all those ones have many more stories. They have about sort of 10 or 11 or 12 in them.
And do you have any more of your Storymaster's Tales settings planned? Because you've got Mysterious Islands, you mentioned it's the newest
Not
one. But...
yeah, Mysterious Islands is my, I say, latest one, my last one. At the minute, no, because
Okay.
I'm actually taking it slightly different direction. What I found from playing it every week on a Think Out school with those students is that they are, every time I play it, that they're kind of wanting to, which is what it was designed for, is role play more. So
Right.
I'm now bringing out, which is currently on Kickstarter now, Folklore Realms. So it's set in the same world, same time period, same kind of fantasy world. And it's something which I developed when I was doing all the online shows over the pandemic. So it's basically the world that I was using, the one that I use in the Wedding Wood and all the Storymaster Tales, but it's a little bit darker, a little bit more designed for freedom, but using exactly the same format that I used to use when I used to present them. So it's more of an act based, because my background again is theatre. So I have about 8 to 12 acts for a story, They will have music as well to supplement your role playing. And then they'll have kind of bullet points and just making role playing as easy as I can for people. So they're not overburdened with rules. They can get straight to role playing with someone within 5 or 10 minutes in a world that's fairly familiar. If they played off previous Storymaster Tales games, they'll know the world. But it's slightly less fantasy. So we got quite ridiculous with some of these. It's a little bit more straight, which I think will work quite well. In fact, we've been play testing some of these, and it does get very, very dark quite quickly.
It does have a folk horror vibe, doesn't it? You sell it as a fantasy folk horror storytelling game.
Yes, I think it's just naturally I want to kind of scare people. For instance, I'm writing one at the moment. It'll have about 8 to 10 tales in this one, and I'm just playtesting one at the moment where you've got Jenny Green Teeth. That is kind of that's what's revealed if you're playing it. But she was if you know the legend of Jenny Green Teeth, she used to drown children, and she's a horrible lady, witch, and I've got it so that the adventurers have to go to this farm where there's been these strange lights appearing in the marsh, and they go and investigate, and these figures appear in front of them. They go up to them, and they're children, and they're literally there's water flowing out of their eyes and their mouths, and they'll grab them and try and pull them into the marsh, and eventually they'll find this old ruined temple where Jenny Green Teeth's grave is. Because everyone heard the villagers rose up and tried to destroy her, and they'll find a lead-lined coffin that has been clawed open from the inside, and then they'll deal with her.
So, that sounds incredible. And also, there's something else different about this one, isn't it? And you've illustrated it yourself.
Yes. I my background is in art design. Spent 5 years doing it, and then I used to sell things in galleries, and then I just stopped. Pretty much went right. Okay, I've got to do other things now. So this is the first one I've gone back to and started doing many illustrations, which is enormous fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's got a different style, and I suppose this is why I'm doing my own artwork, because I wanted to look a little bit different to the other Storymaster Tales. Although it's a familiar world, we can say no. This is going to be slightly different. It's slightly more advanced, but again, using simple rules. And one thing that I have found doing it with less rules, it does, and the format I'm doing it does force the player really to work hard at storytelling. You can come a little bit reliant on roll a dice. I'm going to check my initiative, or I'm going to throw this and roll it. Not about what are you really going to do? Describe it to me. Explain how you're going to do it and why you're going to do it. So it kind of stops people in their tracks. Goes, oh, okay, yeah, no, I'm going to do, and you get some really inventive things coming up and coming out. And also the other thing I've got, which is the major thing, is you roll dice for it. So how complicated it is, it's how many dice you're going to be using. But if you fail, it's going to be not just something terrible happens. Something really bad can happen, and then it's Storymaster to really describe the consequences of that. And also, if the player knows that if they try something too hard for what's happening, it's definitely going to have consequences. So they have to really think hard about how to do things correctly.
Fantastic. And how long has it got left to run on Kickstarter?
It's going to run out on the 1st of November, I believe.
Right. So plenty of time for people to pledge their support.
Absolutely. But go and check it out. And but thank you again. I feel like I'm rambling again. So
well, no, it sounds fantastic. It's lovely to talk about it because and like I say, thank you for all your hard work with International Game Book Day, and
thank you.
Giving it that different vibe this year. I think it's been a great success. So thank you very much.
I think so too.
Thank you, Olly.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jonathan.